Janice Wass's office is a big volcano, all the way in Yeovil. Janice Wass's boss likes to dance flamenco, all the way in Frome. Janice Wass's horse hides in Honiton. Honiton is in Devon now. Wow, 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 wow.
Winter turned to spring, and then this funny thing happened all around. Everything stopped. Inside we were locked, while outdoors the strangest sound could be heard for miles. No fury, no engines, no noise. The world stopped moving.
Hey there, quiet man, all-observing citizen with hands that make mine look small. Hey there, quiet man, all-observing citizen with eyes that see through it all. Make the horses breathe. Make them breathe so calm and softly. Listen when they speak. He's proud and sensitive. He's strong and also weak. Hey there, quiet man, all-observing citizen with paper folds in mourning face. Hey there, quiet man, all-observing citizen, lord and master of his place. Make the horses breathe. Make them breathe so calm and softly. Listen when they speak. He's proud and sensitive, he's strong and also weak. Hey there, quiet man.
Hey there, quiet man.
Hey there, quiet man. Hey there, quiet man.
Hey there, quiet man.
Hey there, quiet man. Hey there, quiet man.
Hey there, quiet man.
There's no pieces
You
since she
found
left
peace
me.
here
I found peace here in the countryside. There's no pieces since she
find
left
peace
me.
here
I found peace here in the countryside. I found peace here in the countryside.
In Somerset, England, UK, Europe, a faint buzz came from the people. A buzz that became a hum and a roar. From the ashes of a cancelled tour, a glimmer, a shimmer, an idea. And a song started it all.
I'm Angela, and this is...
I'm David.
And we are Tour Theatre. Sofa Vision was joyous, and I've been a long-term fan of Eurovision.
Me too.
And then, and you too.
Yeah,
and
me
you too.
Completely unironically, it has to be said.
Yes, yeah. So when we found out that Eurovision wasn't happening because of the lockdown, we were devastated.
We went into mourning.
Yes.
We did. We went into mourning.
So we decided that we would do something about that, and we created a show, Sofa Vision, an online show where Somerset artists came together and created their own song. And it was a proper competition, so I think we had 9 entrants.
9 in the end, yes.
9 entrants from all over Somerset, and we hosted the event. in the guise of some characters that we've been sort of living with for a while.
Our 80s synth pop alter egos, Baked Alaska.
Yeah. I'm Shrew, and this is Steve.
It started out as an idea just for a private party, but then Viv Gordon got involved, and she said, well, hang on a minute. And that very day she had a conversation with Robin at Strode Theatre. So it went from what should have been about 20 mates having a drink and some peanuts on their sofas. It went to how many views in the end? I don't know. Something like, I'm not going to say that because it would be wrong, but it
Quite a lot.
Yeah. BBC Somerset, Radio Somerset picked it up, and yeah, the rest is not quite history.
We needed something cheerful and something happy, and something that wasn't about the current COVID situation, that was removed from that, so that we could actually just have a bit of respite.
That was one of the big kind of references we got from the audience afterwards. They were so pleased to have something really silly to get into that took their minds off it at the time, because we were deep in lockdown at the time, and it was something to get your teeth into during that difficult time, and B, something really jolly and fun.
Pete Steele represented New Zakaland, a made-up land, came in third with his flamenco turn, The Devil Made Me Do It.
A love that's lost can never return. That's what the wise folk always say. But as I walk, there was a lesson that I learned. A deal with the devil means it doesn't have to be that way. He promised me that she will be yours again. He promised me I'll make it so you can dance once more in the hills. He promised me that all you will have to do for me is to kill that little kitten by the road. The devil made me do it, lo eché para el diablo. The devil made me do it, del fatto por el diablo. The devil made me do it, cade a cade. The devil made me. The devil made me do it, lache por el diablo. The devil made me do it, el fatto por el diablo. The devil made me do it, he led me astray. The devil made me do it, and I do it again. Evening.
Then there was darkness. Nothing happened. All was lost. And then Arts Council England supported us to invest in artists and give them trust, to reach local people and create new meaning, new ways to access culture and art at home, on their doorstep, in their own community. This is that story.
We all have communities that define us, places that we live, or people that we share experiences with, people we identify with, people who inspire us. We're surrounded by communities all of the time. Our commission, Connecting Communities, reflects Wassail's mission to create healthy, culturally connected communities.
Windmill Hill is the place where we live, and it's an area at the very top of Glastonbury, and we've lived here for 16 years and we've fallen in love with the place, really. It is our home. It will be our home forever, I think, and so we decided that we'd like to make a film about the area and talk to all the local residents of which there are lots. There's a big estate on the top of the hill, and we know quite a lot of people, but we don't know some people. And we've got in contact with all sorts of people, and they're going to tell us their stories about their experience of living on Windmill Hill.
It's a real place with real people and a real community. There's a hall, there's a shop, there's a playground, and it's a little kind of hub just outside of the town. And it's not the kind of Glastonbury that most people think of when they think of Glastonbury.
I think I've learnt that people here are really quite proud of the place that they live. Whenever I say, or whenever I pose the question, what's it like living here? More often than not, people are very, their faces change and they become really quite animated. And I think there's a real sense that we're kind of set apart from the rest of town a bit. And the estate has a bit of a reputation because
Because it's an estate.
Well, because all social housing does, and it's a ridiculous thing, and it's a myth, and so it's really lovely to see the people live here say that actually the community is very supportive, and it's very close, and it's a happy community. I feel like I've got a bit of a connection because I grew up on a really big council estate in the middle of London, and had all of those things thrown at me because I was a kid from the estate, and so I think expectations were quite low, and it's nice to see another community saying, well, actually that's all nonsense, and I can really I feel that, you know, I feel that sort of connection because I know what it's like to have been brought up on an estate, you know, and it's a good place to live.
I'm Joanna Proctor from Reveal Productions. So Reveal Productions is a applied theatre primarily social and community theatre company, and I work very closely with Wassail in Somerset. Heartbeat came out of the COVID-19 experience, and although there's been a lot of Zoom activity, Nick and I felt very strongly that we wanted to get ready for live performance with social distancing. And so Heartbeat is literally very localised community theatre where we arrive on people's doorsteps, and we've got a little story that is connecting, in this situation, the two Cokers, which is just outside of Yeovil, so East Coker and West Coker. It's about bringing live performance to people, making them smile, because a lot of people have been in isolation and lockdown for some time. Now we're coming out of the lockdown, and the government has actually said, so it's really timely, that we can do live performance. And so Nick and I have devised this piece, which is on its own a piece of theatre, but also part of a bigger picture for us. Pete comes from another show. Some people might have seen Sharabang with the miller's cart and the horses. We've performed that a few times. And Pete has been a character on the Sharabang, but we felt that he needed to develop. Also, he's been sort of a stand-up comic, a person that's gone to various situations, walkabout character, and we felt that he needed to be pulled back into line with a specific performance. And with Babs, his wife, because we did Shower Bike as part of the Odd Festival, so that was part of the process, and Babs, his wife, took on a whole persona and where she's gone and their marriage, and so yes, he's been on a trajectory. So we worked on Pete's character, we worked on Nick in relation to the various hats he has as a Wassail director, producer, writer, leader of the pack type of thing, and wearing his various hats. What does he feel like as performer actor? What does he feel like as producer? What does he feel like as writer? And how he needed to really embody Pete and embody acting and separating that idea of Nick and Pete and really trying to work on some of Nick's attitudes and feelings around acting. We want to make people connect with their community, connect with their neighbours, whether it's in East Coker and West Coker. And for those of you who don't know, there's been a historical vibration with the two villages.
I'm Alexandra Riku.
I'm Beth, Fiducia Works.
And we are making Gallivanting Goblins. It is going to be a podcast, an audio drama that will follow a trail that will go through Vallis Vale, where we are now. And it will explore the sort of folklore and history around Vallis Vale and parts of Frome and Mells.
We're also going to have a podcast for people to listen to at home if they can't get out here, or if they're not local but they want to have a little bit of magic brought into their homes. So we're making two different podcasts, and there's us two, and then also our colleague Danny as well, who is doing all the music making.
With lockdown and everything that's happened, and the fact that people have had a lot of free time on their hands, they've had the chance to explore their local areas and get more in touch with nature, and I think that's been a really sort of important and a really good aspect of lockdown, and we kind of want to encourage that more, and through theatre and stories and that kind of thing. So we want people to be able to see a place that is potentially familiar to them, or a part of their hometown that they haven't explored before, and see it through new eyes and through a new view. I think it's very important for people's mental health. I think, getting in touch with their creativity and their history and
the outdoors as well. It's like the kind of combined the fresh air and the nature. You know, when you're just outside, you feel a bit more positive, and if you stay inside and don't go out, then also kind of like letting your creativity grow or play a little bit makes you feel more positive too. So it's just kind of like hopefully a positive boost for what has been quite a challenging time for lots of people. It's very playful, which I think is important too. Particularly if you haven't got children, you can still listen to the podcast and have a bit of a creative time, which maybe you struggle to do if you're not used to it.
Yeah, and I think it also reminds you of, being out in nature. Life carries on. It's not all necessarily doom and gloom. The world does carry on, and the seasons happen still. And, I think that's important to remind people of that.
It's been hard, so because obviously I'm a facilitator, so I work with people. So lots of my work has been cancelled or postponed, and I don't know when it's going to start again. There's a possibility that something I have in October is going to be cancelled. My summer's been, really affected. So I think there's like a lot of uncertainty and a bit of sadness as well, because those are the things that you really love doing. So I don't know, it's been hard, but then there's like gold dust. So this project, it's a little bit of it's excitement for us. We also do some play readings on the weekends for a group called Partners Wrapped, and that's just been a bit of fun. Different people, actors, non-actors coming together just to do plays together, but it's just those little bits of creativity that you get the chance to, which help kind of keep you motivated during this time, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, there's been a lot of pressure to be creative during this time, and sometimes just, doing something mindful and even just baking and just sort of carrying on with your normal life is enough. But this has been really great to be able to have something concrete that we knew that we could create. Because I'm in a similar position. I was supposed to be doing the Brighton Fringe, and that's all been sort of postponed until next year. So it's been really nice to be able to do something where you felt safe doing it. Just a really different way of interacting with audiences, which has been lovely to discover.
But that's part of maybe like the more positive thing that's come out of lockdown, is it's making people have to think more creatively. We can't be in theatres, or we can't have a workshop space. How can we still,
do something for people that they would enjoy and have the opportunity to be creative with, and that's kind of where this idea for here kind of came out of.
My name's Richard Crowe, and I'm working on quite a few projects over this lockdown period to chart what's happening with COVID-19 and lockdown and how people are responding to it, and to ensure that we keep momentum going with things like live theatre and writing for the theatre and theatre making generally. I was touring a one-man show called Over the Wall Picking Apples, and we toured quite extensively in the southwest, and we were planning to tour to much wider urban centres, and obviously that hasn't happened yet because of lockdown, and I was writing a musical version of that play called Bipolar the Musical, because indeed I am bipolar. I was diagnosed as bipolar 4 years ago, we were working on a first scratch performance of that musical with students at Western University Centre, and it was going very well. And we were supposed to have our first performance on the 24th of March, but on the 23rd of March we went into lockdown. One of the projects that we're working on is a project called Theatre Nights Digital Edition, and that's being hosted now by the Brewhouse in Taunton. It was previously being hosted by Strode in Street, and prior to that it was a live programme which was being hosted by the Red Brick Building in Glastonbury, and that started in January, and we did 3 theatre nights with live actors and live audience and so on and so forth, and unfortunately then lockdown came into place and it all sort of closed down, so I thought, well, we can't afford for this work to be wasted and to be let go, so we've got to continue it. So the only way we can do that is by doing it online, and very luckily Robin at Strode and then Will at Brewhouse came to our rescue, and they've been hosting sessions there. We've been greatly helped technically by Somerset Film, who've really done a great job in showing us how to make films and how to edit them, etc. Of course, this interview is part of our next theatre night, which is the work that Wassail has been doing on Somerset Emergency Theatre programme, funded very nicely by the Arts Council. We've really been busy with this. We've really been busy sort of promoting the sort of ongoing work of theatre makers in Somerset, and promoting the work of what we call the Theatre Makers Collective, which is about to launch big time, because our August edition of Theatre Nights is actually going to be a whole day programme called Some Fringe, and it's going to be 15 shows throughout the day, 15 films throughout the day, from writers and theatre makers in Somerset, and that's what we're going to really hopefully launch the whole idea of the Somerset Theatre Collective. The other big project that I'm working on now is a project called Alternative Endings, which is a collaborative playwriting project, which is involves 7 Somerset writers from a whole range of backgrounds and ages and everything else, a very diverse group, and they're writing different scenarios with different characters, each scene being a reaction to the sort of growing COVID crisis and then what happens in lockdown. And at the end of it all, I, as editor of this piece, am going to bring it all together miraculously into a single play, which we will put out in September as the last edition, or last digital edition of Theatre Nights for now, and then we'll look at turning that into a stage play when all this stuff is over and we can go back into live theatre again, which will be joyous. So we'll be then looking to do a Somerset tour of the show, and if it's successful, we'll take it further afield. We're setting up 7 households, so 7 places where people live in their own little bubbles. Some of them live separately. We've got some individuals living on their own. They live in rural areas, but they also live in urban areas. They're very mixed in terms of age and in terms of race and in terms of outlook. And we're writing their stories. So we've got 7 writers looking at these people and really taking apart their lives during lockdown and how they react to lockdown, whether they react in a way that's slightly panicked and anxious, or whether they react in a way that they think it's nonsense and it's not a problem, or whether they act in a way that, you know, it's really serious because one of them's ill, or somebody they know is ill, or somebody's in a care home and they're ill. And it's so it's really trying to just take a whole slice through society as we are now in lockdown, these few unprecedented months, and saying, well, what's that like? What's that like for people? What are we you know, what is this doing to us? What's it doing to us psychologically? What's it doing to us physically? But also, what are we learning from it? Because, you know, there's undoubtedly times when we are learning something from it. And ultimately, we're asking each of the 7 writers to ask the question, what happens next? You know, we hear a lot about this new normal, or we used to hear a lot about this new normal until the new normal started to return and it was the old normal. But we used to hear a lot about this new normal and what would it look like. And we're asking those writers to kind of take a punt and look 5 years into the future and say, well, how will this have changed all our lives? And that's really fascinating because they're coming up with some very, very different visions of the future and what the future might be. My role in all of this at the end of the day is to pull it all together and take those 7 different scripts that those 7 different writers write and make one play out of it, and make one narrative that kind of works. I mean, it won't necessarily be a one comprehensible story, but it'll be different stories in one narrative, and it will kind of hold together and make sense. We'll never have this time again. We're living through history. We're living through we're not the first human beings to live through a pandemic, but we're certainly the first human beings to live through a pandemic in such a time as this, where there's international flight going everywhere and people going into airports and blah blah blah, and also it's the first time where we've had all these amazing resources at our disposal to record all this, like what you're doing now with the camera, which is a phone. And what we're doing with digital edition, which is all online and people can get it online. So it's very, very immediate, and we mustn't let that go. We mustn't let this time go, because if we do, we won't remember it, because we have amazingly short and convenient memories. But also, we need to keep creativity going. We need to be creative. We are creative people, and I mean, I certainly know that if I didn't do all these projects, I'd curl up in a little pool somewhere, and that would be it, because I need to expend all this creative energy and get these projects up and running. But importantly, particularly a project like Alternative Endings is not a creative project for a creative project's sake. It's about marking this moment. It's about getting down what this did to people, how it affected people, what it was like, and so that in the future we understand it and we can work it out. We can make sense of it for ourselves, and yeah, it's. So I think it's a really important. I think particularly Alternative Endings is a really important piece of work. How did Somerset react to COVID-19?
My name is Matthew Emini, and I'm a theatre maker and filmmaker and street performance artist who lives here in Bath. Well, I devise and create immersive theatre, street theatre and plays as well, and I'm really interested in working in found spaces, alternative locations, sort of creating work outside of the conventional theatre setting, mainly because I didn't grow up around the theatre setting. I grew up through film and television and maybe seeing a panto, so doing live art, what I love, trying to make that accessible outside of the theatre is what I find really exciting. So what happened on Dorset Street was my response to the Alternative Endings Commission, and I was interested in telling a story about young people who leave university who sort of get lost in this city and don't have their voice heard, and often kind of break away and leave because they think they're really alone, where actually there's a lot of young people. So that kind of feeling is what drew me towards telling a story in this location. It wasn't about the Georgian Bath everyone knows about, it's about the large, huge community that lives here in streets like Dorset Street. But then what really got me interested was every time I'd speak to people, they would mention people that believe conspiracy theories and call them absolutely mental and all this. And I've spoken to some people who believe in what they don't perceive as conspiracy theories, what they believe in the truth, and they think that everyone else is crazy. So I thought, well, you've got these two conflicting ideas, and often they can just be brushed under the carpet, all of that's nonsense, we don't want to hear that story and tell it. So I was really interested in exploring, well, what happened if someone really did believe in all of that stuff and they were convincing their partner to believe in it too, and what would happen if one person has to, they're in love and want to support their partner in their new life, but they've got all this, they've got to smash their laptop, get rid of their phones, 5G's coming through, and I wanted to tell that story. I've also am feeding off the other writers involved in the styles of their writing and kind of getting a sense of what the overall piece will be, so mine's not just like its own thing when everyone else's is quite similar, so I then allow that to kind of guide the sort of stories that we're all telling as a collaborative, rather than just writing my own thing and blinkers on. It's helpful to listen to other people, see the work they're making, their style of writing as well. And that's what's really exciting about this, is that all the writers are just really different in all their styles, and I think that's helping us explore different ways to make work. Because I lived in the house just there, the whole house would vibrate when the train would come past, and actually when I first started writing the piece, the house was much further down behind the old print trap, but actually that kind of where the train would come past is one, it's a nice landmark for people who live around here if they come to see the show, because all these houses here, everyone knows that we've got this train, and the track cleaner comes once a month and sits outside going shakes everyone's house. But also as a theatrical device, when something could happen, the train would go and the electrics in our room would all blink when the train, because the foundations would all shake. So theatrically it would work as a really nice scary moment to build up a bit of tension, but also I'm writing the piece of trying to mention as many landmarks as I can for people that can relate to them. So the Guildhall Market and the Scotch egg stand has a mention, the Royal Oak down there has a mention, the Star with its free cheese, the train station going to Bristol. Yeah, so there's not many made up places. Just ones.
What comes next? More money, we hope. New ideas and stronger communities. A culture of invention and innovation. Stay safe and be healthy. From Somerset, with love.
Alone. Alone. All alone. Alone on a wide, wide sea. And never a saint took pity on my soul in agony. The many men so beautiful, and they all dead did lie. And 1,000 slimy things lived on. And so did I.